If it didn't hurt, you wouldn't grow. The purpose of emotional growing pains. Welcome back to the Get Up, Show Up, Never Give Up podcast, the space where we don't run from pain. We learn from it, grow through it, and rise because of it. Today's episode is a hard one, not because the truth is cruel, but because it's honest. Here's the core message. If it didn't hurt you, you wouldn't grow. You're not broken because you're uncomfortable. You're not weak because it aches. You're expanding, and every expansion comes with resistance. So if you're in a season where it feels like everything is shifting, stretching, or collapsing beneath you, this episode is going to help you understand the why, and even more importantly, how to move through it. Let's be real. We crave growth, but we avoid pain. We want evolution, but we resist discomfort. We love the idea of being our highest self, but we get stuck when the path to becoming that version of ourselves involves grief, uncertainty, letting go, or deep emotional labor. But here's what no one tells you. Growth is not supposed to feel good. That ache in your chest, that restlessness, that loneliness after leaving what wasn't right for you, that's not failure. That's what growth feels like when you're doing it right. Why emotional growing pains are real, and this is backed by science. Let's talk about the science behind this. This isn't just motivational talk. It's neurological, psychological, and even physiological. According to a study from Stanford University's Department of Psychology, discomfort during periods of change is often the result of your brain's predictive coding model being disrupted. In short, your brain prefers what's predictable, even if it's unhealthy. So when you begin to change, setting boundaries, quitting toxic environments, pursuing new goals, your brain perceives this as a threat. It triggers a stress response, even if the change is good for you. This is why people often self-sabotage after finally escaping a bad situation. The brain mistakes peace for danger because it's unfamiliar. Dr. Nicole LaPera, a clinical psychologist and author of How to Do the Work, explains this as nervous system dysregulation. When you're no longer in chaos, your system doesn't know how to relax, so it tries to recreate the chaos it once knew how to navigate. This is why emotional growing pains are not just imagined. They are your nervous system and identity adjusting to new levels of peace, worthiness, and alignment. Pain is not always a sign you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's proof that you're healing from what was never right. The lie of instant clarity and clean endings. Let's address something that keeps people stuck. We believe that once we start healing or growing, we should feel instant clarity, peace, and empowerment. That's a lie. Growth doesn't always feel empowering in real time. In fact, it often feels disorienting. You might feel guilty for choosing yourself. You might feel confused about your path. You might grieve the old version of yourself, even if that version was hurting. Harvard Business Review published a piece on identity transitions that explains this perfectly. When you shift your role, whether in your career, relationships, or self-perception, it creates what's called liminal space. That's the in-between. You're no longer who you were, but not yet fully who you are becoming. And that in-between, it hurts. It's messy, it's silent, it's vulnerable, but it's also sacred. Because what's happening in that space is the reconfiguration of your identity. a shift in your inner blueprint. Your habits, your thoughts, your self-image, they're all being rewritten. So if you're in that space right now, not fully confident, but no longer living in survival, this episode is your confirmation. You're not behind. You're rebuilding. You're not lost. You're rewiring. You're not weak. You are rising. How to identify emotional growing pains in your life. So let's break this down. Here are 5 signs you're experiencing emotional growing pains, not failure. 1, you feel alone even though you're surrounded by people. Growth often isolates you from old patterns and dynamics that no longer fit. 2, you second guess every decision, even when it's right, because you're not used to choosing peace. You're used to choosing patterns. 3, you feel tired for no reason. Your emotional body is doing heavy lifting, grieving, adjusting, healing. That exhaustion is transformation in progress. 4, you feel uncomfortable with compliments, success, or ease. This upper limit conditioning, a psychological threshold of how much goodness you're used to. 5, you crave your old life when things get hard because pain was familiar, and familiar often feels safer than freedom until you retrain your mind. How to lean into the discomfort without breaking down. Let's talk about what to do when you're deep in emotional discomfort. Because it's one thing to know it's normal, it's another thing to survive it. Here's a framework I call the inner expansion method. It's a simple way to stay grounded during painful growth. Step 1, acknowledge the shift. Don't deny it. Pain becomes suffering when we resist it. Name it to tame it. Dr. Daniel Siegel. Write it down, say it out loud. I am in a season of growth, and that's why I feel this way. This activates the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, and calms the emotional storm. Step 2, anchor yourself with micro safety rituals when your nervous system is on edge. You don't need massive overhauls. You need moments of safety. Here are some examples. Sipping warm tea while breathing slowly. Taking a short walk without your phone. Journaling 3 things you're doing right, not wrong. Saying this, I am safe in this new version of me. This helps you normalize growth instead of interpreting it as danger. Step 3, rewrite the narrative. If your mind is constantly saying, this is too much, I can't do this, everything's falling apart, pause, rewrite, say, this feels hard because I'm stretching. I'm not failing, I'm recalibrating. This pain has purpose. This is not just mental gymnastics. It's called cognitive reframing, a proven strategy from CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, to change emotional outcomes by changing your thought patterns. Step 4, grieve what you're letting go. Yes, grief is part of growth. Even if you're leaving behind bad habits, toxic people, or a broken identity, your brain still grieves lost. Allow yourself to cry, to miss the comfort of your old patterns, to feel sadness even while choosing better. Growth means letting go without always having closure, and that's valid. Step 5, normalize the stretch. Your body has muscle memory. When you stretch a muscle, it hurts, but with repetition, the soreness fades and strength sets in. It's the same with emotional growth. At first, saying no to people drains you. Being alone feels like punishment. Choosing peace feels like weakness, but over time, your no becomes your freedom. Your solitude becomes your strength. Your peace becomes your new normal. This is emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back stronger, not just survive. Let's go deeper into research and reflection. Let's ground this in more evidence. The University of Michigan's Health Psychology Department conducted a 10-year-long study, 2019, on life transition. The findings: individuals who experience unexpected disruptions, illness, divorce, loss, showed a 46% increase in depressive symptoms within the first year. But those who received emotional validation and practiced daily self-reflection rebounded within 2 years and surpassed their previous mental wellness baseline. Translation: pain plus support plus reflection equals transformation. Dr. Susan David, Harvard Medical School psychologist and author of Emotional Agility, explains that avoiding discomfort actually weakens our emotional immune system. She writes the following: discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. If you want to become stronger, freer, more fulfilled, there is no shortcut around discomfort, only through it. Reflection questions. Write these down and answer when you're ready. 1. Where in my life am I mistaking discomfort for failure? 2. What old identity or belief am I grieving right now? 3. What would I do differently if I believed this pain was making me stronger? Pause this episode and reflect if you need to. These answers will reveal exactly where you're growing. Normalize the emotional aches of progress and how to stay connected while you evolve. Why growth feels lonely, but isn't. Here's the truth. When you're healing, evolving, and doing the inner work, it can feel like you're on an island. Suddenly, your old friends don't relate. You're outgrowing conversations that once energized you. You don't feel seen, but you also don't want to shrink. That's not weakness. That's evidence of progress. The more you become who you were meant to be, the more the world you know starts to shift. But that shift doesn't mean you're alone. It means you're aligned. It means the right people are being drawn to you, even if they haven't arrived yet. Research insight: the identity disruption theory. A 2021 study in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that when individuals make major personal growth changes, they often experience a temporary spike in loneliness. Why? Because their existing social bonds are tied to outdated versions of themselves. That means your discomfort isn't a red flag. It's a transition phase. And most importantly, the same study found that those who maintained a growth-aligned identity over 6 months began attracting new, healthier relationships without even seeking them out. Here's what to say to yourself when you want to quit. You know that moment when you feel like giving up? Maybe you're crying in the car. Maybe you're questioning why you started at all. Maybe the growth just feels too slow. Say this. This is what leveling up feels like. It's not rejection, it's redirection. This version of me isn't the final one. I'm still becoming. If it hurts, it means I'm stretching into something new. Remind yourself, you are not going backward. You're just adjusting to a higher altitude. What to do when you're tempted to regress. Sometimes the old habits whisper. The toxic ex reaches out. The self-doubt creeps back. The comfort zone feels so good in comparison to the stretching. You're not weak for feeling that temptation. You're only human. Here's what to do instead of going back. Use the 3 why loop. Ask yourself, why did I start this journey? Why did I want to change? And why can't I go back? This grounds you in your truth, and your truth will always be louder than your fear if you listen. Neuroscience Insight, Dr. Andrew Huberman, Stanford University, explains that the brain resists change not because it hates growth, but because it's hardwired to seek familiarity. Quote, familiar equals safe even if it's toxic. That's why it's not enough to want to change. You have to normalize the new patterns by repetition, even if they don't feel natural to you yet. Your pain is proof of progress. Let's zoom out. If you're crying more, reflecting more, releasing more, you're not broken. You're building something new. And just like a muscle has to tear before it rebuilds stronger, your heart has to expand beyond what it knew to become who you're meant to be. Pain is not the end. Pain is the birthplace of power. Here's your challenge this week. Write a letter to you who wanted to quit 6 months ago. Tell them what you've survived. Tell them what you've outgrown. Tell them what hurt and what healed. Then fold it and save it, because one day someone else will need that same letter, and you'll be the evidence that emotional growth isn't just possible, it's worth it. If this hit home, take 5 seconds to follow the show on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or wherever you're listening. Screenshot this episode and tag Get Up, Show Up, Never Give Up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Let's remind more people that healing isn't weak, it's power. And if it didn't hurt, you wouldn't grow. I'll see you in the next one. Get up, show up, and never give up.